and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris.
My name is Justin.
And my name is Mike. Welcome to another Casually Criterion episode on Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, spine number 137.
Yeah, we officially broken spine order.
This is it, guys. 30. This is officially the first one of our new method of picking criterions.
Yeah, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun picking a theme and picking a movie and watching the polls to see which one was going to win.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to do it again.
Obviously, they picked the wrong one, but I still got to watch Notorious, so that works for me.
Right. Yeah, so just real quick to catch anyone up who doesn't quite know what we're talking about, we stopped doing spine order on our Casually Criterion episodes and decided to start voting on themes that are relevant to whatever we want to do that month. And then based on the winning theme that wins the poll, we decide to choose another Criterion movie. And so that's kind of how we've decided to start doing it going forward. And this month, Notorious one, based on the theme espionage.
Yeah, and at the end of this episode, we'll pick a new theme and do a new round of voting and pick new movies and all that, and it'll be real fun. And if you want to follow along with that and vote, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. You can also email us if you want to send in your questions about the films or topics you want us to discuss. You can email us at casualcinemedia@gmail.com or send those questions to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's fine too. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on like your podcast app or on iTunes, wherever it is that you like to listen. And also give us a 5-star iTunes review, write a review, let us know what you think of the show.
Yeah, the participation part of this, picking the criterions, is a lot of fun. So, vote and then tell us why you voted for what you did, and we can have a healthy debate.
Yeah, if there's any updates, we can give them on the regular episodes when we review current movies each week.
Yeah, we want to, talk about the films that you guys want us to talk about or want us to review. So I think this whole poll thing is working out.
All right, gentlemen. And with that, are we ready to move into the recent Criterion announcements?
Yeah, always.
All right, cool. So we are up to November 2018. Let's see, what comes out the first week of November? Chris?
November 6th, a story from Chikamatsu comes out by Kinji Mizuguchi. He also directed Ugetsu and Sancho the Bailiff, which is also part of the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, both of those are good movies, too.
Mm-hmm. I saw Ugetsu. I really liked that one.
Yeah, I've seen Ugetsu, but not Sancho, and I really, really loved Ugetsu, so more Mizuguchi is A-okay with me.
Have either of you seen this movie?
No.
I have not.
Yeah, a story from Chikamatsu?
I know nothing about it,
Me either, but I'm always down for more Asian cinema, especially from that guy. Kinji
Blind Buy for sure.
Mizuguchi, yeah.
Cool, so what's next?
So November 13th, we have Some Like It Hot, directed by Billy Wilder. Of course, Some Like It Hot is starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe. I think this movie pretty much needs no introduction. It's one of the most popular movies of all time. I think it's like the highest rated comedy of all time by AFI.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's number one or number
the band,
two.
not the American Film Institute. Just kidding.
Yeah, the band loves this film.
They love it. Yeah. But I love the film. And you couldn't hear it, but whenever you said Some Like It Hot, even though I already knew, I got so excited I put my hands up in the air like I was cheering.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really work for a podcast, but I did it anyways.
Nice. When's the last time you saw Some Like It Hot?
I guess it would have been in one of our film appreciation classes in college.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, which was a while ago, but I'd seen it a couple times before that, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
It's been a while, like back in our Blockbuster days, or before when I've seen it. So it's been 10 years at least.
It's my favorite, like Tony Curtis role. I've seen him in a few things, and he's really great in a lot of stuff, but in this movie in particular, he does what is basically like a Cary Grant impression throughout portions of it. And I really love Cary Grant. He's one of my favorite, like, old classic romantic comedy actors and maybe one of my favorite actors of all time. And so to watch Tony Curtis doing that is just like endless joy for me.
I agree. I can't wait to see it again. And so I'll probably be all over this Blu-ray when it comes out.
Yeah, so November 20th, we have a lot. It's the last date in November of the releases, nothing on the 28th. But we start out with The Magnificent Ambersons from Orson Welles, which is, that's kind of an important one because it's, I guess I don't fully know the story. I haven't researched it, but I guess it's like unfinished, right?
I've seen it. It's not necessarily. It was released. It wasn't unfinished, but the studio and Orson Welles kind of fought about it. From what I recall, the studio threw away one of the reels, so it's a lot shorter than Orson Welles wanted it to be.
Okay, it's incomplete.
Something along those lines. I wouldn't even say it's incomplete. The movie as it stands is complete. I don't know if they had to re-edit it. As the story goes, he lost some film when he was making it, and so he wasn't able to make the film he wanted to.
Yeah, and I guess to my understanding, the version of Magnificent Ambersons that we have is still not the one that he set out to make, right? It's still
Correct.
like chopped up by the studio or whatever.
That seemed to be a common theme with Orson Welles.
Right.
Yeah.
They did actually redo the Magnificent Ambersons in like a TV form based on Orson Welles' original script. I never saw it, but I remember that they made it.
Awesome.
Cool. What's next?
Yeah, so next we have a film called True Stories, which is by David Byrne of the Talking Heads.
I was about to ask, yeah.
Yeah, and this film, have either of you guys seen it?
No, but I have
haven't
a
either.
passing knowledge of the Talking Heads, and I like a few of their songs that I've heard.
I recently actually watched a video essay on True Stories, and I put it on my list to watch.
Okay, but you haven't seen the film?
No.
Does he wear that gigantic suit in this one?
He has like kind of a cartoonish suit and hat on for a chunk of the movie from what I remember. I've seen it once and it's been, I guess, like 6 years now, so some of it's a little vague, but I remember pretty much just having a really good time watching it. Like there's a lot of musical numbers and songs, and it's very offbeat and sort of weird, you know, like you said, he's got the big suit or whatever, but he's kind of just dressed really goofy, and there's a lot of goofy, silly characters in it. And
so the suit I'm thinking of, it looks like it's from Stop Making Sense, like a live show. Anyway, it's quite cartoonishly large. But is that the suit you're talking about?
I don't know that it's large.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember it being
You
like
would definitely
that, but
know if it was what I was talking about.
I think it's kind of a regular suit, but it's it just looks kind of silly. And I'm pulling up images now. Like he kind of looks like he's dressed like a Night of the Hunter. I'm blanking on the actor's name in Night of the Hunter, like the main
Robert Mitchum?
sort of bad guy. Robert Mitchum. Yeah. He looks like he's dressed like Robert Mitchum in Night of the Hunter, sort of. And it's just very silly looking on him to me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, no, I haven't seen this at all.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I will definitely buy this one and watch it pretty quick after it comes out. Yeah, that brings us to the last one, which is the Ingmar Bergman box set, the giant one that they announced a long time ago, before like this set of November announcements. So
Yeah, we talked about that last month.
I do want to put it out there that if the Criterion Collection wants us to review the box set, they are more than welcome to send us each a copy of it, and we will do an episode for each movie, or however you want us to do it. We can talk about it. Just send us the box set, and we'll review that.
yeah, we'll figure it out
And
from there.
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah, and just toss in Some Like It Hot for shits and giggles.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. So that does it for the Criterion announcements for November of 2018. So that's it. So until next month,
Awesome.
that's all for now.
Cool. Lots of good stuff. I'm excited about Some Like It Hot.
Yeah.
If I haven't stated that numerous times already.
This might be hyperbole, but some of the stuff I was reading on the Criterion Facebook groups was that this may be the best month ever for the Criterion Collection as far as the releases go and the quality of them.
Well, I think that Bergman box set really goes a long way to sealing that deal.
Yeah, it does. And then something as big as Some Like It Hot is a big acquisition. And, you know, there's very few of those sort of like unsung movies. I guess maybe the Mitsuguchi one is probably one that not a ton of people have heard of, but usually there's more than a couple of those every month. And this one, it's like all things you've heard of.
Yep.
Wish I had money.
Right?
All right, guys, are we ready to move into our review of Notorious?
Yes.
I've never been more ready.
Oh, my. Without further ado.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
I thought I saw you.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. Great turnout, isn't it?
Yes.
Where are they?
In a box in the stand. I don't think they can see us, Alex and his mother.
Don't telephone me anymore. Just rely upon my popping up.
Can you hear me?
Sure, go ahead.
Heard of Dr. Anderson?
No.
He's some kind of a scientist. Kind face, 60 years old, gray hair. Deep crease in the forehead.
Tall or short?
Short? Emil Hupke, heard of him?
No?
He made quite a scene about a wine bottle the other night.
Didn't like the vintage?
He seemed to think there was something else in the bottle.
Was there?
No, it was wine. We drank it.
Has he pulled anything since?
Haven't seen him since.
Anything else?
Nothing important. Just a minor item, but you may want it for the record.
What is it?
You can add Sebastian's name to my list of playmates.
Pretty fast work.
That's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Skip it.
Are you betting on this race?
No.
Alex says number 10 is sure to win. He knows the owner.
Thanks for the tip.
Alex says they've been holding him back all season.
Can't help recalling some of your remarks about being a new woman. Daisies and buttercups, wasn't it?
You idiot. What are you sore about? You knew very well what I was doing.
Did I?
You could have stopped me with one word, but no, you couldn't. You threw me at him.
So before we get going on this, usually in our reviews of modern films, we like to do a non-spoiler section and then give you an alert before we talk about spoilers. But for Notorious, since it came out in 1946, we're just going to go straight in with spoilers. This is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen the movie and don't want to get it spoiled, don't keep listening.
Turn back now.
Turn back and go watch the movie.
Yeah,
Please.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, stop listening to us, please. Go watch the movie and come back.
Yeah, it's nice and short.
It is. It's shorter than I remember it being.
All right, Notorious, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains. The IMDb synopsis says, a woman is asked to spy on a group of Nazi friends in South America. How far will she have to go to ingratiate herself with them?
Steamy.
Indeed.
Cool. So who wants to go first with their expectations for the movie?
I'll go first. This is actually my second time watching the film. I first saw it probably about 10 years ago whenever you told me about it, Justin. At that time, I was going through a phase where I was watching pretty much everything I could find time for. Notorious was not my first Hitchcock film by a mile. I've seen several of his others, but this is definitely one of the ones that stood out to me. Yeah, so anyways, I rented it, I loved it, and so I was excited going back to it after all these years. It's probably in my personal top 3 Hitchcock films. I've thought about this movie many times over the past probably 10 years since I've seen it, especially the editing and the build-up and the tension in the last act, I think is just so good. This is my favorite Bergman performance, and although I must say this is not anywhere close to my favorite Cary Grant performance by a long shot. Yeah, after a second watch, I'd say this film is still great, maybe a bit too short, because it felt like it flew by this time. That's my overall thoughts. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Alfred Hitchcock has a sweet spot in my heart because Alfred Hitchcock really is what got me into movies. I watched Vertigo, and then that made me start watching more and more older films and getting into actors like Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak.
Right. Well, Hitchcock's a good entryway into people getting into film.
Yeah, he was my entryway. Chris, you invited me to go watch Vertigo with you in a theater, and you'd already seen it and loved it. And prior to that, I was, kind of not interested in older movies. I thought they might be, boring or dated or uninteresting or whatever. And we went to see Vertigo, and from then on, much like you, I started watching a bunch of old movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, Alfred Hitchcock he's a special guy to me, and I love his films. And we, earlier this year, we watched The Lady Vanishes, and it was really great, but it's nowhere near peak Hitchcock, which I think Notorious is very likely, top 5 movies for sure of Hitchcock's, and just really great. So yeah, I love Hitchcock. You're right, Mike. The editing is really great. Ingrid Bergman is fantastic in this film. Yeah, you're right. It's her best performance that I have seen thus far.
Yeah, this is her movie for sure.
Yeah, and the way the emotions play over her face, and you can just see her inner life happening and playing across her face is so great. Cary Grant is so damn charming, and I hate the guy, but it's almost impossible to hate him because he wins you back over.
You hate the guy in the movie, right? Not the actor?
I hate Cary Grant because he's so charming.
Oh, okay.
Kind of makes you feel funny things that you don't understand.
Cary Grant, stop it.
You hate how much you love him.
Yeah, I hate how much I love him and how great he is. And he's really great in this film. You're right. It's not his film, and so he kind of stands back and takes a more passive role, but I think he's really good in that role, and he has kind of these witty things that he's saying. They're not necessarily funny, but these witty things he's saying to Ingrid Bergman that are actually kind of angry and biting.
Yeah, mean. He plays Devlin. His name is Devlin in the movie, and he plays like a kind of... Yeah, he plays against type for someone as charming and likable as Cary Grant.
Mm-hmm. You understand why they fall in love at the beginning, and then he kind of goes away and hides and is behind his words. But yeah, this movie starts off really great, the romance and stuff like that. But then, man, that last act is so great. Everything from the wine scene on is so great, and yeah, I love it. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat a bunch of stuff. Can you just play what Chris said again?
Sure, no
Instead
problem.
of let me talk?
Yeah.
Save my voice. Yeah, but really, I think it's great. I saw this film because of a Roger Ebert book that I had stumbled across in like the library of my community college that was like, I think it was called The Great Movies, and it was just 100 films that he considered to be great movies. And Notorious was one of them. I had seen Vertigo. I maybe hadn't seen a Hitchcock film other than Vertigo at that point. Maybe Rowendo, but I saw Notorious in this book, and at that point I loved Cary Grant from like Bringing Up Baby, and I thought, I'll go watch that one. So I did. That was my first time to watch it. That was the last time I watched it before now. And I feel like it's even better this time. I don't remember exactly how I felt about it then. I know that I've always thought of it very fondly, but I don't remember the emotions as clearly because it's been so long, right?
I was about to ask you, actually, because you were the one who recommended that I actually go watch it because it was so good.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you now if you remembered what it was all those years ago exactly that made you, like, text me and, like, tell me to watch it. But
there's definitely... Well, there's definitely a lot of things, and knowing who I was then and what I really loved about certain films and what films stuck out to me and made an impact on me then, I am willing to bet that it's the final shot of the movie.
It's
and
a
the
great
way
one.
that the movie ends.
Yeah.
Because it surprised me the first time and caught me off guard. I didn't expect it to end there. And I was just in love with the way the movie ended, I think, and, just shocked by it. So I think I texted you just to like, have you seen this? Because I need to talk about how great that ending is.
Yeah, you were just high on the greatness of the ending. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would guess it was. But yeah, it's Hitchcock at his best. I think it's probably my second favorite Hitchcock next to Vertigo, because Vertigo holds that spot because it's the first one I saw.
That makes a lot of sense.
Maybe if not for that, I think Notorious might be better and might take like the number one spot. And I think what's so great about this movie is just the sheer amount of tension in it. Like it's an hour and 40 minutes of tension, like either sexual tension or actual like suspense of what's going to happen, danger, all kinds of stuff. Like there's so much tension no matter where we are or what we're doing. And it just keeps you on the edge of your seat, keeps you interested. And like, I feel like as much as I want everything to work out for the characters and want like the right things to happen, I also, in the beginning of the film, I want Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant to kiss. I want that just as much as like in the end of the movie, I want them to make it out of the house. Like that's how good the sexual tension is. It's just as good to me. And I think Hitchcock is a master of that. And
especially since it's all implied,
Right.
Like given the censorship codes, like he can't actually show any kind of eroticism, right? But this film does feel very, like you said, very sexy, and there's lots of sexual tension all over it, even though they can't even kiss for more than 3 seconds at a time,
Yeah, I did want to talk about it, and just in case either of you guys or any of the listeners, I know that you guys probably know, but this film was made during the Hays Code, which was like a production code that limited all kinds of things that you could show in films, and that included earlier on things like you can't show a black and a white person in a relationship together. You can't have a husband and wife sleeping in the same bed. And then one of the rules, as you said, Mike, was you couldn't show a lustful kiss that lasted, or a lustful embrace that lasted longer than 3 seconds.
Right.
Which is one of the fun things to do while watching this movie. Like once you've seen it and you're not, enamored with what's going to happen next in the plot, and you can kind of watch the movie as like and see what Hitchcock is doing, and like it's really fun to watch those scenes and like almost like count along, like try to count to like 3 seconds.
Yeah, before they break away.
Before they break away, yeah.
Yeah, so in case you haven't picked up on what we're talking about, they would get around this law by having Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman kiss a little bit and then pull apart and talk and then go back for more kisses. Or in the case of the wine cellar scene later on in the film, it actually cuts away to someone else watching them kiss and embrace, giving the impression that a constant uninterrupted kissing session was going on, even though we actually only see it on screen for less than 3 seconds, crafty.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that's interesting to watch about films like made during that time is ways that they got around it, ways that they were subtle and sly and had to be inventive to get the point across. Sometimes I think that when you have like rules that you have to work around, it makes you be really creative in order to break those rules or in order to tell the story you want within those rules, really. And I always find that interesting and films of this era.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. All right, so the protagonist of the film is played by Ingrid Bergman, and her name is Alicia Huberman. And it's implied that she's sort of a woman of loose character. She's not expecting a mission to drop out of the sky in her lap. She's just sort of leading her life, drinking her sorrows away because her family is all Nazis and they've all been arrested. And she really just wants to not be alone, right? And so I guess when she meets Devlin, she falls pretty fast for him. And, I felt bad for her because this is a woman who's lost pretty much everything. And she's been branded, for lack of a better word, a slut, right?
Yeah. And a drunk.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just, it doesn't seem fair. And Bergman is so good at playing this part.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how unfair the branding is. Like, I get the implication that she gets drunk, and the way that she's flirting with Cary Grant, or Devlin is his name in the film, the way that she's flirting with Devlin the first time we meet him and the first time they've met at the party, she seems like a seasoned expert. And I'm not going to say that that necessarily makes her a slut or a loose or whatever, but I guess for the time...
Sure.
It wasn't necessarily...
Sure, it's definitely implied that she might be promiscuous, but I feel like the judgment is a little unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if she is promiscuous, there shouldn't be judgment, probably.
Yeah.
Sure.
And which brings me to the character of Devlin, played by Cary Grant. This guy seems like kind of a jerk, no? He asks her for help, then gets mad at her for going along with it, and she's just wanting so badly for him to tell her what's on his mind and how he feels, but he's always just too cool for that, Yeah,
I think it's a combination of too cool and a sense of duty or doing like the right thing for the country, right?
Yeah, and a sense of just judgment, right? Like,
it felt like he wanted her to say, I don't want to do it. And then he would have been okay with it then.
Yeah, but he wanted her to be more virtuous or something on her own accord. Like, he wanted her to live up to his standards that he wanted.
Right. They each wanted the other one to say something, and neither one said anything. And so they continued along that path.
Yeah, which, that maybe that makes them both in the wrong, but I think Cary Grant is certainly in the position of power. Like, being a U.S. government agent and she's working for them. Like, he's got the power to stop it if he wants to. Maybe he feels like he can't because of his position, but I think that makes him a little bit worse, a little bit more culpable for everything that happens. More so
definitely.
Than her.
But do you think they slept together that first night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, the first thing that Ingrid Bergman did wrong was trust a man wearing a 3-piece suit or like that giant suit that he's wearing in Miami. Those suits must have been so hot. And he never sweat. He was never sweating. So, like, obviously something is wrong with this guy. Really nice suit, no sweat in the middle of Miami, and then Rio later on. I don't know how he did it.
Bad news.
Yeah. Bad news.
Yeah, now that I think about it, maybe I don't agree that they slept together that first night where she was real drunk, because... Like, how do you feel about the scene where they finally kiss, or we finally see him kiss, where they're like outside and they're talking and she's kind of like laying into him a little bit and he suddenly quickly like kisses her? Like, to me, that almost feels like a first kiss.
It feels like the first time they are... Well, I don't know. Maybe not, because they did get pulled over on the way there, so she found out he was a cop. So she probably wasn't super in the mood at that point after he hit her.
Yeah.
It was interesting. So the morning after, the other gentleman shows up. There's another gentleman that asks her to go out onto the boat with them, and he is not surprised that there's somebody else at the house early in the morning. So I don't know. But anyways.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they did it, though.
But her drunken POV shots were really cool.
Oh, the hangover shots?
Yeah. No, like in the bed.
Oh, yeah,
and like spins the camera upside down.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember the first time I did a short film and I had like a shot where the camera like tilted like that, and I thought it was being real cool, but Alfred Hitchcock just did it, 80 years ago or whatever, 70 years ago. So, way
Close
to go.
one.
Yeah, I almost had him.
Yeah, so it turns out that Devlin is basically recruiting her for a mission that he doesn't quite even know the details of beforehand. Mm-hmm. So when they finally find out, they realize that she needs to go in there and seduce someone she used to know, an ex-Nazi who is now living in Brazil. And of course, Brazil had a very large German Nazi population at this time. And that's where several Nazis fled after World War II. Just fun fact. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
No, I didn't. I kind of assumed that the movie was based in some sort of factual reality like that.
Also, there was a movie that came out, I think in the 60s, about this called The Boys from Brazil. And it had Gregory Peck in it. And it's about Nazis. Anyway.
I did not know that was what that movie was about. I know the movie. I've heard of it, but
yeah,
did not know that was it.
Do you guys think her father's suicide information was withheld from her until after she agreed to see if it shook her loyalty? Or do you think it was just given at face value, like the way it's presented in the movie?
I remember thinking there was something to it. Like, I remember thinking that they withheld it from her until a certain point. I don't remember thinking that it was to test her in any way, but it more like it waited until she had agreed and was on board.
Right.
And then they told her so that they didn't have to ask her to do something while she was already upset about her dad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't we discover that along with her, or do we find out before she does?
Cary Grant finds out, and then he walks over and tells her.
Okay, so it's basically at the same time, though.
Yeah, Cary Grant didn't seem to know.
Yeah, I took it at face value.
Yeah, I did too the first time, and mostly the second time as well, but it had crossed my mind that maybe there was something else to it. Just thought I'd see what you guys thought.
Yeah, it's something I'd have to pay attention to on another viewing,
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to talk about, in regards to like maybe them testing her or, waiting until she agrees and sending her on this mission and everything. Do you think this film has any sort of comment on like patriotism and what you should and shouldn't do for your country, or how far you should go for your country? And is there a limit?
I think a lot of films of this time period had a very strong sense of patriotism. This was fresh after World War II. And so a lot of films of this time, when characters start talking about fascism or America or the political climate of the time, they go off into these like really passionate patriotic speeches, which is something that is definitely not done now, right? But it is something that happened a lot in the 40s and 50s. For sure.
But is it questioning how far you should go? I think that, do you think this film is questioning what you should do for your country?
Ingrid Bergman is, at the end of the day, is portrayed as a hero in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at the end of the day? Are they like towards the end of the movie? I guess.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, for sure. Not like the characters don't think of her as such, but I think we're supposed to take that away at the end.
Yeah, and it's really disappointing the way they kind of treat her while she's doing this. They've asked her to go basically sleep with this guy in order to get information on him. And then every time that they see her, are like, oh, she's got a loose character, she'll just sleep with anybody. Well, look, you just asked her to do it, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
why don't you ease up a bit?
Yeah, she's doing such a good job, and then to hear the way they talk about her when she's not around, like they don't respect anything she's doing, they don't appreciate anything she's doing. They're literally just like, well, that's her nature. It makes sense. We did a good job picking her for this mission because she's so good at it.
Yeah, she's doing such a good job. Wink, wink,
Yeah.
I think even though she does things or like causes things that are ultimately good, like catching what these Nazis are doing and, ultimately most likely stopping them, like that's good. And I think everyone's appreciative. But throughout the movie, I feel like all of these steps that she's taking as an audience member, I feel like I'm not supposed to look upon them favorably or like she's doing something heroic. It always feels like, to me, I'm kind of like, don't do that. Like you shouldn't probably shouldn't go that far. Like, that's weird. Like, to me, it seemed sort of condemning of not necessarily her for doing it, but of the people who are putting her in the role of having to do that, which makes me wonder if there's anything to that in terms of Alfred Hitchcock's view on patriotism or what you should do for your country.
Well, I think ultimately she, like I said, I feel pretty confident that at the end of the day, she is portrayed as the best human being in the movie, to be honest. And honestly, I don't know any other way to read the movie other than at the end of it, she is the hero, and all the men who put her in danger, whether they be Nazis or American agents, they're the ones who are casting judgment on every party involved. She's the only one in the movie that doesn't seem concerned with condemning anybody. Her family is Nazis. Her country is America, right? So she's like in this unique situation to where she's hated by everybody or judged by everybody. But the whole movie, she's just trying to do what she believes is right.
Yeah.
And everyone else slut shames her for it. Like, the man she loves is literally like saying the cruelest things to her because she's going along with his plan too well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then she just takes it and begs him to be nicer.
Well, so I'm more than it being specifically her, but that's being said something about what she's doing for her country. But like the guys that are making her do that, like, how far apart are they from the Nazis in the film? Because the Nazis are hatching this plan. The one guy, he points at the champagne bottle in the one scene and kind of freaks out about seeing it, and they end up killing him. How far away is that from what the Americans are doing to Ingrid Bergman?
When you think about it, her husband, Claude Rains, who is a Nazi, treats her more like a gentleman and more trusting than the American agents who know where her real loyalties lie. So I don't know if there's any greater commentary there, but I think it's interesting to note that, like, the Nazis, her Nazi husband treats her way nicer than the people whose side she's actually on.
Yeah, he's the kindest to her, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think there might be something there. I'm not totally convinced. I don't really know.
I get the impression that Claude Rains really, truly loves her, probably more than Cary Grant does.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
I think Cary Grant is in love with her. He just shows it and is more upset by what's happening. So we see the ugliness of love.
I think he's the surrogate for, like, the everyman, the audience at the time, right? Like, the audience whose moral ideas are going to line up with his.
Well, and that would make sense. But I still think, I mean, it's the ugliness of love. He's hurt by what she's doing, whether or not it's his fault or not, which it is his fault. But he's still hurt by it, and he's hurt because she didn't say anything, even though he should have said something, and he's in the wrong for it. But I think he's still in love with her. And he feels like he's done everything right. And she does do some jabbing at him, saying, well, you'll be glad to know that I found another playmate to play with, insinuating that
she's just trying to get a reaction out of him there.
Yeah.
She's trying so hard to get him to speak up and say that he cares. That's what that's about.
Right. Well, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt him, and then so it kind of it's not the right thing to say, and it just furthers that, like, divide that's there.
Oh, definitely. I agree. Like, he loves her for sure. Yeah, Devlin's character loves her, but I think he doesn't treat her well, and I think his love comes from, like, a very selfish place.
We also have to consider that Claude Rains, and in the movie, Claude Rains is 50, and she is in her early 30s too, so it's like a whole nother thing going on there too, as far as the age-wise goes.
That's true. He knew her when she was a little girl.
Yeah. So that's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Speaking of creepy, I really think the mom, Claude Rains' mom, is super effective without doing much in the film. Like, she just has a look, or she's sitting there knitting, and it's just unsettling.
Her introduction into the film is her walking down the stairs and into the camera, into a close-up. So she's in a very long shot, right? She walks down the stairs, and her face, it's a close-up on her face at the very end. It's such a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very effective.
Hitchcock had a thing for creepy moms.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
How did you guys feel about the cellar scene? I thought that the suspense and the tension really ticked up a notch in that cellar scene and the party sequence in general, with the champagne bottles going empty. And I just thought that whole sequence up until the part where he finds the key back on his keychain was just so well done. And the tension, and even with the kissing, so you actually get both of them. What Justin's talking about with the sexual tension. So you get this sexual tension that's happening with the real tension. And I just thought that scene is just spectacular, only upped by the last scene in the movie. So what'd you guys think about it?
I think that's where the sexual tension becomes plot driven, like actual, just like, I guess, dramatic tension at that point. Most of the movie up to that point, most of the tension comes from like the sexual tension between Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, or Ingrid Bergman and Claude Rains, or Claude Rains and Cary Grant talking to each other, knowing that they're both interested in Ingrid Bergman, right? And and this scene is where like they shift for like the most part into like that dramatic tension, because they have the whole thing with the champagne bottles, like you said, and them coming down, and like, when is he going to check his keys? Like, there's so much going on, and it's all edited to like perfection in terms of timing and building the suspense perfectly. I love it. And
the kiss at the end, because I feel like they're both actually relieved to kiss each other again, but they're doing it specifically to distract Claude Rains' character, and I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this scene is absolutely masterful. This is probably one of the most memorable, like, Hitchcock scenes of all the movies I've seen from him. It's just great.
It's so long.
Yeah, it's long, and it holds up the tension, right? Like, you're scared they're not going to get the bottle cleaned up in time, Just so much stuff going on. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. His other memorable stuff to me is all very short-lived, like moments of like that are like quick and intense and in your face for like moments. And this one is one of the best ones, and as you said, most memorable ones, I think, where like it just builds and builds and builds and builds for a long time.
So according to Wikipedia, Selznick, who produced this movie, really wanted Cary Grant replaced with Joseph Cotten, since he really wanted the first film dealing with atomic weaponry after we dropped the nuclear bomb. He wanted it to come out really fast, but Cary Grant was busy for like 3 months, and it was going to delay filming. So I thought that was an interesting fact. And actually, Joseph Cotten was in the radio drama version of Notorious, starring Ingrid Bergman as well, put on through Lux Radio Theater. And I listened to it on YouTube the other day while at work, and it's actually pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on the Criterion edition of the film, by the way, if anyone has that. Or it's on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Well, I assume it'll be on the new one that comes out sometime soon. They haven't announced it yet, but they did like a drawing hint in one of their newsletters. So I think an update of this is coming pretty soon, and I assume it'll be on there too.
Yeah, which actually I wanted to talk a little bit more about Joseph Cotten, because I love Cary Grant, I really do, but I don't know that this is a role that Cary Grant really shines in that Joseph Cotten couldn't also do. I think Cary Grant is great in this movie, and I wouldn't want to replace him, but I think Joseph Cotten could do something similar, at least based on the radio play. Because I feel like Cary Grant doesn't get to be quite as charming here as he normally does. He's kind of like understated, and this is very much Bergman's movie,
Yeah, I think he has to do a lot of charm in the beginning of the film. Like, I think he has to
the first 5 minutes or so.
Over. Yeah, I think he has to win you over as an audience watching it, like, to believe that she's falling for him so quickly. Because otherwise, the turn later, when he lets her go do all this, when he shouldn't, like, that isn't as effective without him. And, I've seen some Joseph Cotten stuff, and I'm sure he could be charming, no doubt. But I think Cary Grant just has this ability to, like, I don't know how else to put it, but, like, he doesn't actually say a lot in that opening scene, that first scene that he's in. Whereas other films, he talks a lot, and he's charming in that manner where he's like quick talking and funny. And this one, I think he might say like 3 or 4 things in that whole scene. He kind of just lets Ingrid Bergman rant and ramble drunkenly, and he'll just say like one line real quick. His ability to be charming while not saying anything, or not saying very much, and just saying a line here and there, and making that one line super charming, and making the looks in between that equally as charming. I think Cary Grant has the ability to carry that, maybe more than Joseph Cotten. I haven't seen a ton of stuff with him in it, but I've seen some.
Oh, I'm sure that's true. Joseph Cotten is a great actor, but Cary Grant just oozes charisma. So you're probably right. I just think, if you ever get the chance, if you're ever at work and you have about an hour to kill, listen to the radio drama for Notorious and listen to Joseph Cotten. He plays it a lot more tough and gruff than Cary Grant, and I think it works.
Interesting.
Whenever Alicia was being poisoned by Claude Rains' character and his mother, is she actually being poisoned with uranium in her coffee? The very uranium that she's trying to get information about?
I have not thought about that at all. That didn't cross my mind. What makes you, or what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Justin. It makes sense that they could be using that because it's readily available to them, but that was not what I was thinking. And if that is true, she's kind of got a rough time ahead of it, right?
Right. What makes you think about that, Mike?
I don't know. I just thought about, I watched a movie called The Reflecting Skin the other day. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, there is a soldier character who comes home from World War II. And he and his entire ship apparently witnessed tests of nuclear bombs out in the ocean, wherever they tested nuclear bombs back in the day. And in it, he talks about how there was like silver dust falling from the sky, and there would be like fish bubbling up from the water, and they would just be able to pick up the fish and take a bite out of them because they'd be cooked in the water.
Oh,
and
that's crazy.
And later in the movie, this same character who tells this story starts losing his hair and his teeth start bleeding, his gums and stuff. He's basically dying of radiation poisoning, but doesn't understand what's happening to him because they just don't know about radiation poisoning yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know. This probably has nothing to do with Notorious, but it just crossed my mind. I was like, hey, I wonder if these symptoms of her getting sick are just slowly her dying.
I certainly hope not, because, she doesn't have a super happy future ahead of her then.
And it seems like a pretty precious substance to them. So I think...
That's true.
I think using it to poison someone is maybe like a not valuable use of that.
She already
resource.
spilled one of their bottles, man.
It's true. They recovered most of it. Not all of it, though.
Anyway, it probably doesn't matter either way, right? Whether it's poison or that. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. It could be like that extra touch of like vindictive from them, right?
Yeah.
Of like, we're gonna poison you with the stuff that you've found out.
Come to find out about.
Yeah. So speaking of the poison thing, I did want to just touch on and mention real quick that there's the shots earlier in the film when she's hungover that you mentioned, Mike, and then there's also the shots while she's poisoned. That are Ingrid Bergman's point of view as she's poisoned and as she's weak. And there's a couple of really cool shots of her husband and the mother during that scene where they're talking to her and they're like out of focus and like they're silhouetted with the light. And I thought those were really cool. I thought as another example that I bring up because we did get that when we talked about Lady Vanishes on the podcast several months ago, where there's a point of view shot of a character as they're getting ready to pass out. And we also have the famous vertigo shot that Hitchcock does. And then I watched Psycho recently. There's a driving scene where, what's the actress's name?
Janet Leigh.
Yeah. Where Janet Leigh she's driving and she's really tired, and you get these shots looking out like the windshield that kind of portray her tiredness. And I always think that it's interesting when Hitchcock does this. He portrays like a feeling inside someone's head really, really well. And it never really feels overly cheesy to do that like it might. And I really appreciate that. The way he can put us into the mind of a character that's feeling something in their head.
Right, when she discovers that she's being poisoned, and that's when you're talking about in the movie, right? When she sees the mom. Yeah, that is a good shot. And then you see it on her face. It's really great. I have a question, though. You said vertigo. We get the vertigo shot in here?
No. I'm talking about the vertigo shot
okay.
as another example of Hitchcock putting you in the mind of a character and like portraying something that is happening in the mind on screen for you as the audience to understand it.
Okay, that makes sense.
He does that a lot and always to great effect.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to talk about the story and the plot just a little bit really quickly and talk about something that I think is really great in terms of script writing and story is how many scenes in this movie take place where one and sometimes two people in the scene don't know something that everybody else does. Like that happens in probably like 80% of the scenes in the movie. And I think maybe one of the best examples is when they're walking down the stairs at the end, where finally everybody knows everything. Basically, like Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains, his mother, they all know. They're all coming down the stairs. They know what could happen. And then the other Nazis that he was meeting with are downstairs and they don't know, right? And I think, I don't know, I feel like that goes back to, like, made me think of when we were talking about Hereditary, where the scene where they're having dinner around the table and how much drama is milked out of certain characters knowing certain things and other characters not knowing something. And when are they going to find out, and how's that going to go? Like, I think that is a big source of tension in this movie, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're right. And I love the game of chicken that they play as they walk down the stairs. You know, are you going to let me go, or I'll tell these guys, you know, and we can start shooting. I don't know. I just love that last sequence is just so chock full of tension and drama. I think it's really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing when they're poisoning her, because at that point of the movie, we know that her husband and her mother and his mother know that she knows, but she doesn't know that she's being poisoned. She doesn't know they know. So there's a ton of tension milked out of that. There's also the scene where that guy who freaked out at the champagne bottle, when he comes back in, and we know that they're going to kill him at first, and he doesn't quite catch on. It's just, it's a ton of it. It's a really great tool.
Hitchcock was great about that, and setting up the tension so well and so masterfully without it seeming like ham-fisted or having a lot of exposition. But it's all so minimal and so fast. It just feels so like fluid. There's just never a misstep when it comes to that kind of thing. Like, usually whenever like the third act is happening in a movie, it's very plot heavy, and you can feel the wheels turning to make things happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And in this film, I feel like that is not a problem at all.
Yeah, well, it's the structure of the script, and the script being plotted so well, because you don't have to have that much exposition whenever they find out and they realize they can't let any of the Nazis find out that she's an American operative. And it's all based on that scene where they're going to kill the guy who just pointed at the champagne bottle, right? They can rely on that scene that happened an hour earlier in the film. Like, and they may say, like, look what happened to him, but that's way better and not exposition in this. They don't have to say, like, well, we can't let them find out or they will kill me. You know, they don't have to say that explicitly. They can just lean on that other scene that's already happened. So
we understand like the social dynamics between them all perfectly.
They've done the work already, and now we can sit back and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't end in some, I don't know, fight or some kind of, it doesn't end in some kind of ham-fisted way. It's all just very much, it just feels right. It just feels like something that should happen, like an extension of the characters.
Yeah, it gives you other scenes to play out in your head once the movie wraps up. Like, you can play out where Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman go. You can play out what happens when Claude Rains gets back into the house. And you get to imagine that, which is, in this movie, at least I think, it's way more satisfying than actually getting that scene and seeing him, like, panic and get, maybe surrounded by them or something, whatever would happen, right? Like, ending it in that most suspenseful note of what's going to happen next. Like, that's when the movie ends, is like the height of what's going to happen now. Like, but how is it going to go down, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's good. I want to watch it again now.
Well, you can.
Yay. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about in regards to Notorious?
Not me.
Go watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've listened to this whole thing, you know everything that's going to happen, but I think that will not deter your enjoyment of the film at all.
What's the theory that a good movie, even if it's spoiled, it doesn't make it a lesser movie? It's still a great movie.
Yeah.
That's not the saying, but I understand the sentiment.
Yeah. It is the saying now, Mike.
Okay.
I wrote it on my wall.
Chris said it. I heard him.
Yeah. It's on my t-shirt.
All right. So are we ready to move into choosing the theme for our next Casually Criterion episode?
Yeah. I'm so ready.
I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. We hope you enjoyed that review of Notorious
as much as we enjoyed talking about it.
All right. So what we're doing now to choose our criterion, we're going to pick a theme, each of us. So we'll have 3 themes, and we're going to put it out on a poll on Twitter and on Facebook where you can go vote for your favorite theme. And whichever one wins that, we'll pick a film based on that theme and do a new poll, and that will determine our winner. So first up, we're each going to pick a theme for the new Criterion poll. And we wanted to base it on a recent film that we all watched, and spoiler alert for our episode, at least mildly enjoyed to regularly enjoyed, I think. But that film was Crazy Rich Asians. So that's going to be the inspiration for our themes.
Yeah, that film is super popular this month, so we thought, why not? All right, so Chris, what was your theme that you chose based on Crazy Rich Asians?
Based on Crazy Rich Asians, which is about a girl that goes over to Asia to meet her boyfriend's family. So she feels very much not of that place, even though she that is her country of origin. Yeah, so my choice is Fish Out of Water, because she's not in her natural setting, and I think that can make for some good Criterion movies.
Yeah, it would not be hard at all to find a Criterion Collection film that fits the theme Fish Out of Water.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What about you, Justin? What's your theme?
All right, so my theme, I'm going to go based off of my favorite scene from Crazy Rich Asians, which is the actual wedding scene, the wedding ceremony. So I am going to go with weddings. So that would be films based around a wedding or that include a wedding specifically. Maybe there's something a little bit more creative to be had out of that, where you could like twist a movie to fit into that category. But simply put, weddings.
Okay. So
I just thought that 128 Days of Sodom would fit that one.
It's true. There's a wedding in that, but too bad we've already reviewed it.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Darn.
And there's also only 120 Days of the Sodom.
What did I say?
You said 128.
That's the one about the zombies, right?
Chris just enjoyed it so much he wanted to add an extra week onto the Days of Sodom.
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right,
I wanted 8 more days.
All right, the theme I wanted to choose for Crazy Rich Asians was family heritage. Throughout the film, the main character, Rachel Wu, has to basically come to terms with her own heritage and what it means to be both an American and a Chinese immigrant. And so I figure something like family heritage can apply to many, many films within the Criterion Collection and should give plenty of options to choose from.
Yeah, I guess one we've done already that is off the table, but like Omricord has so much family and stuff going on. It would be a good one.
Yeah.
But we already did it, so that's off the table.
Absolutely.
I think Fellini has a lot of family heritage stuff going on, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
true.
just to give you guys some examples, those are some films that would work for these themes. So by the time you're listening to this, the poll should already be up. It'll be up for about a week. Vote on whichever theme you feel like would make for the best selection of Criterion films. And next week, we'll come back with our main episode with 3 movies to choose from.
Woo.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of this is picking a movie that goes with a theme. I like picking the themes, but picking the movie's the best part so far.
So I'm excited about next week, too, for that reason.
Subscribe to our show, check out our latest current episodes of new movies, and we will give you guys updates on the winner of the theme.
So that's it. That's it for this episode, right?
That does it for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. It's always fun to do these Casually Criterions. I super enjoy them. I hope one day we get to do more than one a month.
One day.
Yeah. And then, of course, thank you, Jake Wagner Russell, for doing our intro and outro music. You can hear more of his music at soundcloud.com/bobscotch.
Our next episode will be 2001: A Space Odyssey, written and directed by Stanley Kubrick. We decided we wanted to catch that while it was being re-released for the 40th anniversary in theaters. So, watch it. Check it out with us.
Yeah, really, really excited about this one to see it in the theater.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it on DVD, so this will be my first time seeing it in HD even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it once on Blu-ray, but on like my regular size TV, so seeing it big and bold and in your face, I'm excited about.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So, with that, we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for listening.
See you next time, guys.
Bye-bye.